you're free to go. Because if I die and you're around here, they're going to cut you into pieces. Live! He forgave his own slave. And he sits there on his deathbed, and the masses of people come around him to give their farewell look at him. You know, they start off with the big leaders, the big appointees, the sultans, the leaders and other governors in other countries. And he lets them in for a short period of time. Then he says, all of them, stop them. Just bring me the orphans. Bring me the widows. Bring me those kids who have problems. And he puts them and surrounds them and sits and looks at them and cries and cries and cries. Umar Ibn Aziz. You know how many kids he had? It said, some narrations I was checking up, 12 to 16 kids. He brings them over. After all the kids, before the kids of the Muslims? No. That's the last thing on his mind, is my family. The governors tell him, Umar, you got so many kids. Write something, so after you, someone will provide for them. No. He says, no, if I'm righteous, Allah's going to send them something better. And if they're righteous, Allah's going to send them something better. And if they're sinners, Allah is going to deal with them the appropriate way. I don't want to be part of that. I don't want to live. See, today, the fathers, what's their only game? I got to work and make some money so I can leave it for my kids. That's okay. I can't die and leave that. No. If they're good, Allah's going to provide them something better. If they're bad, I don't want to be part of that sin. I don't want to be part of that sin. I don't want to leave them money and they use it for the sin. And he dies. In later history tells us, these sons of Umar Ibn Aziz, who he died and left them with zero. Nothing. When he dies, these children of him become the wealthiest of the Ummah of his times. The sons of those he took away the grants from, the other ones, the ones came knocking on his door, the one he took the grants from, became beggars in the streets. You see the barakah? وَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا. Their father was a righteous man, like Allah tells us in Surah Al-Kahf. The ones that Musa and the Khattab rebuilt the wall for him. You all know the story. He rebuilt the wall. And Musa's telling him, why are you rebuilding this wall? The town people told us, we can't have nothing to eat. And you go building them a wall? You crazy man. He says, وَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا. If you're with Allah, and you say, I want to go for the sake of Allah for anything, Allah's going to take care of your kids. Don't think about it if you're sincere. If you're not sincere with Allah, then you have a problem there. Umar Ibn Aziz is on his deathbed and he tells the people around him and he advises them. He feels strength and he says, take me to give a speech. He gets up and he says another one-liner, two-liner. He says, oh my people, fear Allah for a day like this. Weak, I'm on my deathbed, about to die. And he begins to cry and can't finish what he's going to say. They take him down again. He's rested and he tells his people, when I die, I want you to put me in my grave. And in that process, uncover my face and see, is it blackened or whitened? If it's whitened, then you can rest assured I'm in good shape. If it's blackened, that means I'm in bad shape. Umar Ibn Aziz begins to recite Qur'an and give his prayers. And then his wife, Umar Ibn Aziz, doesn't have a servant. Umar, the leader, the khalifah, has to do the work himself. Now his wife has to do it. She goes to buy groceries. And she tells one of the people around, stay with him, make sure he's okay. And he sends the people around him outside. And he begins to recite Qur'an. تِلْكَ الدَّارُ الْآخِرَةُ نجعلها للذين لا يريدون علوا في الأرض ولا فسادا. That's the life after. We allow it for those people who don't want oppression or sins in this life. That's the precious life. And the grants of the life after is not one who enjoys his life. You commit adultery here, you're going to get it over there. You drink over here, you're going to get it over there. You waste the wealth of the Ummah over here, you're going to get it over there. Umar wasn't like that. He says that verse, and that's the last thing he says. And his soul passes to Allah. And the Ummah begins to cry. And they take him to pray on him and bury him. And as they said, Raja, rahimahullah, says, I put him in the lahad myself with my hands. And I covered his face to see how his face was, like he told me on his deathbed. He says, Wallahi, I never seen his face any whiter than that day. Usually when you die, your face changes to worse shape. He says, Wallah, he was as bright and beautiful and as white as it can be. Why? He preserved the commands of Allah, so Allah preserved him. His legacy lives. Who do you think cried over him the most? The Muslims? Rather, the Christians and the Jews. The empire, the third Roman empire of the Romans, he said this was a brightness that was turned off. That's why, Muslimin, when I say all the globe gotta go under the control of the Muslim, I mean it. I mean it. Because America has no right to say that, because they're oppressors, aggressors, terrorizers. When the Islamic Ummah led, look what Umar Ibn Aziz did. The Roman Empire of the Roman cries and he says, it's a lightness that was turned off. Allah told us we gotta be the leaders of the world. The Prophet told us that our history shows that we're the only leaders. Be proud to say. This like the United Nations says we have to govern the world. The United States says we have to do it. We say we're the only ones who could do it. Look at that. The empire says a brightness about Umar Ibn Aziz that was turned off. The highest priest of the time, which like the Pope of today, what does he say? He says, Wallahi, by our Lord, if there was anyone to come who would make a dead stand up after Isa, it would have been that man. If there's anyone who was identical to Isa, it would have been that man. Umar Ibn Aziz. He doesn't know that Umar was among the descendants of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He did that because the Prophet told him to do that. Yes, that was the justice Umar Ibn Aziz led in. He led the Ummah with justice to the point a woman sends him a letter. In this letter, some in museums today. From Fartana Sauda. From Fartana Sauda to Umar Ibn Aziz. Fartana is her name. And Umar Ibn Aziz is the Khalifah. From Fartana, the black woman, to Umar Ibn Aziz. You know, Umar, I got a house with a low fence. And the kids keep coming in and bothering me. You gotta come and rebuild that. Justice. A woman, you know, if you send me that letter, and who am I? I got nothing on my back. I rip it up and throw it away. No, he holds it and regards it and saves it and sends a letter to the leader of that town. You gotta rebuild her the wall and make sure she lives in peace. And he sends from Umar Ibn Aziz to Fartana Sauda. I've ordered the governor in your town to rebuild the wall. If he doesn't rebuild it, come to me and tell me. I'm going to deal with him. Umar Ibn Aziz, the one who spread justice throughout the world. His people take the wealth of this ummah and go from town to town to town asking, where's the poor? Where's the needy? Where's those who need something? Everyone declines. Where's those who need to get married? Where's those in debt? It goes to Yemen, around to the Arabian Peninsula, the caravan, and it comes back untouched. Umar made everyone rich. Go ask the Jews and Christians. They need anything? The Jews and Christians are rich. Go ask. Go buy from this wealth seeds and throw it behind the mountains. Why? Throw it behind the mountains so the birds can eat over there. They don't have to come distances to eat. The birds and the animals during the time of Umar Ibn Aziz rahimahullah nourish. This was the giant. This was a symbol of the justice that Islam has to give us today. Jazakumullah khair for listening. If there's any questions, we'll take them.
Sheikh, you said that if the father was righteous, Allah is going to reward the sons for his goodness. What about, the opposite? If the father was sinner or like he was evil, Allah would punish the kids because of that?
Well, it could happen that Allah will punish a father, maybe to make the problem of his, make a problem in his life, maybe to make a problem in his life in retaliation for something he did, and it could be a problem in his kids. Could be a problem in his kids. But the overall trend, if they're adult and the son is pious, and the father is not, the general trend is that it will not happen. وَلَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى. But it could happen that Allah will punish a father by the health of his son for something that he did.
So got a question, Sheikh, about, you said that he's one of the descendants of Rasulullah.
No, I didn't. I meant not Descendants, I didn't mean physical descendants. It can't be. Because if he's the descendant of Umar, he can't be. But he's a descendant like we are in following the guided path of Umar, of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. There's one more last story of the justice of Umar. Is a woman came to the Umar Ibn Khattab, Umar Ibn Abdul Aziz, and she asked, where's the house of Umar? She came all the way from Iraq walking. And she asked, where's the house of Umar Ibn Abdul Aziz? The people point to a mud house. She's looking for a palace. And they tell her this mud house is the house of Umar Ibn Abdul Aziz. So she knocks in and she enters. And she sits with the woman there.